and welcome to Darvanalee Designs Studio. My name's Nicole Reed and today we're going to be looking at some English paper piecing. We're going to make this cute little mug rug, so let's get started. Today we're going to be making, as I said in the intro, a simple little mug rug or a little table topper that you can sit under a pot plant or anything like that. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I use when I'm paper piecing, and then I'm going to show you the different ways of doing it. So today we're going to be actually working with 1-inch hexagons. Okay, and to measure, if you've got 1-inch hexagons, you need to measure this side here. So each side should measure 1 inch. So if you've got some hexagon papers at home and you're not too sure what they are, just measure along here and that will tell you what it is. So today we're using a 1-inch hexagon, but as you can see there are a variety of different sizes. So this one here is a 1/2 inch hexagon, and I get these from Sue Daily and we stock them on our website. And you can see here then we have a 1.5 inch hexagon. So we have a variety of different sizes, and there's many different shapes, and in future videos I will show you those different shapes. Okay, so a few things that I like to use. I like to have a sharp pair of scissors on hand to cut my threads, so I always have these handy. And look, there are many different ways of being told that you should use a milliner's needle or a fine needle so you get cleaner work and you don't see your stitches and all that sort of stuff. So there are many different opinions out there. For me, I've got quite chunky little fingers and I find it very hard to hold those milliner needles. I have tried them and they are great to work with, but I just use the John James Pebble sharps. Just your basic everyday sewing needles, and I find that they work really well for me. Also, I like to use a finer thread. So this is I believe this is a 60 weight thread, and it's a lot finer to use, so it makes it pretty impossible to see those stitches when I stitch all my hexagons together. So this is you can buy these donuts. Sue Daily has them on her website. I occasionally have them on my website as well. I'm actually sold out at the moment. I'm waiting on more stock to come, but these are by Superior. It's a bottom line thread, and it's called the Super Bob's Donut, and basically you get I think it's 35 different colors in it, so it makes it very easy to just have that sitting there while you're doing your hand sewing. The majority of the time I use either white, light grey, or a cream, or a slightly darker cream. But then if I'm working with dark colors such as blacks, purples, navy blues, I've got them to choose from here as well, and I don't have to have a whole spool of the thread. So that's maybe something that you can, if you really enjoy doing this technique, that's something that you can look at purchasing. I highly recommend that. Okay, so that's the threads covered. Now you might be wondering why I've got wonder clips here. Well, I'm going to show you what I use my wonder clips for in a little while. And as you can see, I do have some hexagons already wrapped, and these I used to do a little history of these. I used to actually do Instagram swaps, and I did a lot of swaps for hexagons. So I would make a heap of hexagons and send them off to a central point, and so would a lot of other people, and then that central point would then divvy them up and send them all back to us. So this is a good opportunity for me to just show you the different techniques. So you can see this one here, you can't see any thread coming through here, and on the back they've actually used the glue basting technique, and that's just where they get their glue pen. A lot of people use sew line. There are many glue pens out on the market. I've just got one of these ones. I can't even tell you what brand it is. I've had it that long, all the writing has worn off it. So basically they cut out their hexagon fabric, which is about 1/4 inch bigger than the template itself, and then they just put a little bit of glue there, and then they press that down, and they make sure that it's going over the cardboard. And you can see there, these have been sitting in my little box that I have. I just have a little container that has them all in there, And it's been sitting in there for a good 12 to 18 months, and you can see it hasn't even come off or anything like that. Now you can see this one here, this one actually is glued as well, and it's got a little hole in the center, and that's what I do with mine. I actually hole punch so I can just get my the end of my quick unpick or my tailor's awl and just lift up that that hexagon out of the fabric, and then it's ready to go. So this one here, you can see there is some actually blue thread on that, and this is called the basting, thread basting method. So you can see here wherever they've folded over the fabric around the template, they've actually stitched down, and that holds that corner into place. I like to do mine slightly same method. I prefer this method. It takes a little bit longer, but I feel that I'm not struggling to get the templates out, because all glues are not the same, and sometimes you can struggle to get it out using the glue, and I just find this way a little bit easier. But I have even taken it a step further, so you don't have to worry about going and cutting all these threads, because they've actually gone through the cardboard or the paper piece, and so that is now attached to that paper. So that's there. In this one here is the method that I like to use. So you can see here there is no threads on the back, on the top, sorry, but there are threads on the back, so they haven't actually gone through the paper. Now you might not be able to see that on camera because it is quite a faint thread, but what they've actually done is they've come down and they've gone and done a loop which holds this little corner here on, and they've come up and done the same thing again. And that's the method that I use. I like to do it very, very quickly that way, and I don't have to worry about, once I take these papers out, which I can show you on this one how easy it is. I just lift up a corner and then I just slide that out, and you can see it just holds its shape nicely. Now it does you can do that with the glue base as well, but as I said, not all glues are equal, and sometimes they can give you a little bit of grief. So that's just the different techniques, and that technique is the one that I'm going to use today, and I am going to get started with my pieces over here. Now for all the things that you need for today, I do have a link down below to our blog, some links to the different products that I'm talking about today that are available on our website, so you can go over there and have a bit of a look, but you've got this video to show you how to do it. Okay, so basically all we're going to do is now you need to get yourself 7 little 1-inch hexagons. Okay, so that's what I've got here. And we need to get our thread and thread up our needle. And you don't necessarily have to use the bottom line to do this for the basting side of things. You can use any sort of thread that you want to use for that. Just when you're sewing them together, I would suggest that you use the bottom line. You just want to pop a little knot. It can be any sort of knot you want. Just pop a little knot into the end of it, like so. Then you grab your needle and you grab your piece of fabric and you just place it on there. And what I like to do is I just like to get rid of some of this excess as well, and try and get myself a nice consistent seam allowance. And now I'm ready to fold over my first piece. So as I said, you can use glue, but I don't like to do that. So what I do here is I grab myself a little wonder clip and I hold that in place, and then I go to the next one, and just finger pressing, I just again roll that over. Now if you find that see how I've pushed that over and I don't have an even seam allowance on this side, so what I like to do is also pop a pin in. Okay, and I know that that's going to hold it in place. So again, I roll that over and I just pop a wonder clip in, and then I roll this side over, grab myself a wonder clip and hold that in place. And I keep working around in the same direction. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, I know that that's holding in place, and then I can just move that out of the way. And then what I'm going to do is just actually come up in that crease just underneath it, but not going through the cardboard. And I'm going to pull that through, and then I'm just going to do a little loop like so, and that's going to hold that corner in place. So again, I make sure that my fabric is all nice and taut up against the edge of the hexagon, and then I'm going to go over to my next joint. Again, come under, give it a little bit of a pull, and just do that little loop like so. And you can see there that that's holding it in place. I've got a nice clean corner there, point, and it's not going to move. And I'm just going to continue doing that all the way around. And from this point, you don't really have to use the wonder clips anymore, because it was just to hold it in place. And you can see there, I'm just going around, but I'm not going through the cardboard. What this is helping me do, it means that I won't have to go back later and snip all those basting stitches. And again, and then we're coming around to our last side, so we tuck that in and fold that over. And again, we just go through the fabric, not the cardboard. We do a little bit of a loop. We can take that pin out now, and you can see there our hexagon is all covered. So at this point, I just do a little slip knot, and then I can snip that off. I do leave a little bit of a tail, and there my hexagon is done. So I'm going to repeat that for the rest of my hexagons. Okay, so you can see that I've sewn them, I've stitched all that onto the hexagons, and basically now what I need to do, they're still all a separate unit, and now what I need to do is put them together. So basically the grey one is my center one, and as you can see, I've got a little bit of a pattern happening there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my grey one and my red one, and I'm going to put them right sides together, and just to help me hold them, I'm just going to put a wonder clip on there, and I'm going to sew a whip stitch fairly close together, and I'm going to start at this corner, and I'm going to sew a whip stitch all the way to this corner. And now, just using the needle that I've been using and the thread that I have here, which is a 60 weight, this is perfect for this. Even though it's cream, I still shouldn't be able to see my stitches. So I'm just going to put a little knot into that, and I'm going to just come underneath here. I don't know if you can see that on the red one. I'm just going to come underneath here, and I'm going to grab that corner of the grey one, and I'm just going to secure that in place. Now I'm going to come back through in the same spot, and then I'm just going to do a little bit of a slip knot, and I'll do that again. And that's just going to secure that in place. Now if I take that off, you'll be able to see that I can't even see that stitch. Okay, and we're going to continue to do a whip stitch. Now all I'm going to do is grab the edge, not going through the cardboard, just the edge of the fabric. Of both hexagons, and you can see there I'm doing them very close to one another. So you can see there, I'll just get that to focus a little bit better. You can just see the whip stitch. And I'm going to do all that all the way across. You see there, I've just grabbed the grey and the red, and I haven't gone through the cardboard. Okay, so I've just come up to that corner, and I can open that up, and you can see there, you cannot see those stitches. Okay, and now I'm going to add my next piece in. So I'll grab my green one, so I put them right sides together, and then I'm going to come through that red one, put a wonder clip on just to hold them in place. So I'm going to come up through that red corner into my grey one, into the grey one from the back, and then into the green one. And I'm just going to continue to whip stitch that around. Again, just going through the top of the fabric and not through the cardboard. You'll know if you're going through the cardboard because it will be difficult to push the needle through. You'll feel a little bit of resistance. Okay, so I've got to the end, and again I'll open that up just to show you, and you can see there that the stitching is like, you have to really pull it apart to see those stitches. So you can see there that even though I'm using a cream thread, you're not being able to see it. So now I'm going to add my next piece on, and I'm going to continue doing that until I'm ready to add my last piece on, and I'll show you what I do. Okay, so I have sewn everything to the center flower now of the flower. So now what I want to do is attach these side pieces here. So basically all I do is I just fold that in half, and this is where I've ended with the blue one, and now I'm going to attach them together. So you can just fold the fabric and the template in half to make it easier for yourself, and again you're just going to make sure that you're just taking a tiny little bite of the fabric at the top and attach those two together, making sure that you're getting your corners all lining up. And I always do 2 stitches in that corner when I'm going up the sides, and you can see there that that's now attached that quite nicely. There we go. And again I just continue to whip stitch that all the way up, and you're going to repeat that all the way around. Now instead of breaking my thread, which I don't like to do, I just keep my, I'm almost out of thread here, so I'm obviously going to rethread my needle. When I get to the top, and I should have enough to show you before I have to change it. So again I just keep whip stitching, and I always do 2 stitches, oops, in my corners, and then go through a 3rd time and just do a little slip, and you can see there that that's joined it quite nicely. Now to get over to the next part where I've got a stitch, which is the red to the green, I just fold that in half, and you can see this is where I've come out, and I just do a couple of jump stitches. So I just go through the seam allowance and then through the seam allowance again, not going through the card until I get to the corner that I need to get to, and then again I just go through the red and the green and I'm doing a corner, so I go through twice and then I just whip stitch up to the end, and I do that all the way around. Okay, so you can see there that we've put everything together and you can't see any of the stitches. I'll give you a nice close-up of that, and you can see that it's all stitched together, and now we're ready to turn this into a mug rug. So now what you want to do is you just want to grab your 6.5 inch square, okay, and you just want to center that, find the center of that, so just fold it in half and then in quarters, and just finger press that, and then you can see there that we've got some crease marks. So now this is going to be ready to be sewn onto this. So what we've got to do first is we've got to remove our hexagon. So I generally start from the center, and then I just bring that hexagon out, and then I can just slide the rest of it out as I'm going. And just being gentle, just in case you've actually gone through the card, you don't want to pull out your stitching. So there we go, that's one out, and then I just continue doing that all the way around, just being nice and gentle. I'm just using my embroidery scissors to pull the hexagon out, and I just get underneath there. You can see there, just lift it up, and now I can get that out. There we go. This one, pop that out too. And I just continue doing that all the way around. Okay, so I've pulled out all the hexagons out of the back, and I've just given that a quick press. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that onto my little background square here. And what I do at this point is I just get some of my basting glue, which is Roxanne's basting glue, and all I do is I just put a couple of drops on the back on the seam allowance. So just here, 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 there, just where all the seams meet, where the two hexagons meet, and then I just put a little bit on, just a dot. That's all you really need, just along the seam allowance. And what this does, it'll hold it in place for me so I can sew it down. Okay. So I just place that on. Now this seam here I like to line up with that crease mark there. So we just press that into place, and then I grab my iron and my ironing pad, and I just place that on there, and then I just give it a quick press. And what that does is dries the glue, and now I know that that can be sewn on there. Okay. So I can pick that up, and you can see there that it's not falling off. So if I was going to be doing a whole quilt and I wasn't ready to sew all these onto their individual squares, I would use the basting glue, and then I would move on to my next square. But for now, what I'm going to do is we're just going to turn this into a little mug rug. It's just to show you the technique. So I'm going to grab my piece of fusible fleece or wadding, whatever you've got on hand. I'm going to put that onto the back, and then we're going to hand sew it. Okay, so we've stuck that on with the basting glue, and we've got our fusible fleece on the back, and that's just given us a little bit of stability in being able to stitch it by hand now. Now, if you are, as I said, if you were just ready to move on to another block, you can just continue on. That's entirely up to you. But now what we're going to do is we're going to hand stitch this little flower into place. So grab your needle and thread that, and we're just going to continue using the 60 weight. I have been known to use a finer thread again. It just depends on the project, but basically you just want to tie a little knot in the end, a little quilter's knot, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to come up on that first corner. So I'm going to come up just underneath on that first corner, and you can see there I'm just going to take a tiny little bite of that corner. And all I'm going to do, and hopefully you can see this on camera, is I've just come out of the edge of the hexagon, and I'm just going to take a little bite of the bottom fabric and in the corner of that hexagon. Now for a clearer picture of this, and this is what I do for my binding stitch, I will link up down below my binding video for you a picture of this. And I'm just going to go and do that all the way around until it's all attached. So see there, I've come out in the hexagon. That's a little bit too far. I just want to come out on the crease of the side of the hexagon. So see there, I've just done that stitch. You can see how you can see it, and we don't want that. You don't want to be able to see that stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unthread my needle, and I'm going to pull that out, which is nice and easy to just unthread that, and then I will take a smaller bite in the edge right here in the edge of my hexagon. So I'm just coming up, and I'm just going to come out of the edge of my hexagon just right there. You can see that a little bit clearer, and I know that I won't be able to see that. You can see there that it's just completely and utterly disappeared, and I know that I'm good to go. And I'm using a cream thread on a dark blue, so you want to be extra careful. And where I've come out, I'm just going to go underneath there and then come out about 1/8 of an inch away from that. And you can see there, it just disappears. So I'm going to do that all the way around, and our little mug rug will be ready for quilting. Okay, so it's all sewn on, and now we can start quilting it. So you can see there that you can't see the stitches or anything like that. I'll get it up nice and close for you so you can have a look. So you can see there that you can barely see those stitches, so it looks like an invisible stitch. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to quilt it. So to make it nice and easy, I'm just going to go 1/4 inch all the way around the hexagon, and I've already got my fusible fleece on there. So I'm just putting my backing on now, because I didn't actually stitch with the backing on because I didn't want to have those little stitches going through the back. And now all I'm going to do is just pin the backing to it. Just put a few little pins in there, making sure that all my layers are going together and that all my raw edges are aligning. Okay, so as I said, I'm ready to start stitching. So I'm actually going to probably use a contrasting thread along here. So I might use a red thread, I think will be the best one. You can use whatever color you like. As I said, this is a great scrap busting little block to do, and if you done a whole series of these blocks and then put them all together, you could do it as quilt as you go, or you could just wait and sew them all together with a sash. And there we go, our little mug rug has got its binding on, and it's all finished, and it's now ready to be used. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I really do hope that you enjoyed making this little mug rug and learning about English paper piecing. Don't forget to share your projects over in our Facebook group, and that's linked up down below. And if you like this video today, please give us a thumbs up, and if you're new here, consider subscribing to our channel by hitting that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, so that way you won't miss out on any future posts. My name's Nicole Reid for Darvanalee Designs Studio, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.